Hello, everyone. Welcome to Why Traditional Parenting Fails Strong-Willed Children in the Modern World. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you. Whether you're watching this now or later, you're gonna gain so much value out of this. I have really poured so much love and knowledge and brain science into this masterclass, and I know there are still so many people out there who relies on traditional parenting, and I hope this class is a wake-up call for you and anyone who is still believing that punishments are the way to go, timeouts are the way to go to discipline kiddos. All right, so that's my intention for this masterclass. So welcome. I'm Jahanvi Shah, and I'm really glad you are here. And if you ever felt like traditional parenting methods just don't work for your strong-willed child, I want you to know you are in the right place. And if you guys don't know me, if you're new to my world, I'll briefly introduce myself. I'm Jahanvi Shah, and I'm a certified conscious parenting coach and a founder of the Conscious Parenting Lab, which we will talk about towards the end. So stay tuned about that. And my mission is to really empower parents, especially moms, with the knowledge and the tools they need to create that authentic cooperation, that deeper connections, and everlasting peace within their families. All right. And I'm so committed to this work. It's truly my calling to help mothers feel that safety, which is hard to see it out in the world these days. I just actually got a message from one of the moms that, Jahanvi, I don't know. There's just so much information out there. I open Instagram, I open Facebook, and I'm seeing so many parenting advices, right? Like there is so much, which is great, right? We have so much information available out there, but sometimes it's hard to know, right? Like what is, the right to know. But one thing I'm going to tell you, if you resonate with me or anyone else for that matter, stick with that, right? Because when you're going to listen to 50 voices, you won't be able to hear your own, right? So please listen to your intuition, go with, what resonates with you, and then stick with it. It's a process. It'll take some time, but you will get there, all right? Beautiful. Okay. So let me show you what we'll be covering today. We'll explore why conventional, traditional parenting falls short for strong-willed kiddos and what actually works. I'm not going to let you walk away just telling you what and why, but I'm going to also show you how. Okay. So how about that for the starter? And, I want to tell you, this is for you if you're really tired of power struggles, you want more peace at home, and you are open to science-backed, heart-centered tools that nurture both your child and yourself, right? So, we will explore the deeper science behind strong-willed behavior, the emotional and neurological needs of your child, and reasons why old parenting methods fall short. And most importantly, you will leave with clarity, compassion, tools to create more connection and peace at home. All right. All right, let's start by understanding what we mean by strong-willed. These incredible children come with a unique set of traits, and that can both challenge us and fill us with admiration, right? If you have a strong-willed child, you know what I'm talking about. They have intense reactions. They question everything, like why? They demand explanations. They resist being controlled. They are persistent. They are determined, and they're often natural leaders. And strong-willed kids have that intense angry outburst. They demand to know why. They can argue forever, right? They want to be in charge, and they refuse to do things unless they want to do them. You can make them do it, right? I'm sure Daria and Ella here would agree with me. And, if you're watching this later, if you're nodding along, you're definitely parenting strong-willed child. And while these traits can make daily life challenging now, They are actually the foundation for incredible adult strengths when nurtured properly. Okay, so let me give you that just for, a little landing space because I know it's not easy parenting a strong-willed kiddo. All right. Let's look at some of the traditional parenting traps that we kind of get sucked into. So traditional parenting approaches where, were developed in a different era for different goals, right? They focus primarily on obedience and compliance, right? Using all what we call that power over dynamics, where the parent exerts control through punishments, rewards, and unrealistic consequences. Right? Darius says both mine strong leaders. I hear you, girl. Mine too. Not at the same time, so that helps me. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Um, and with strong-willed children especially, these methods create a cycle of disconnection. When we use power over, we can sometimes get in the out, get the outcomes, right? We want out of, fear child may do something, the behavioral changes that we want, but will, never, for the reasons that we want them. Make sense? So they may do it out of fear, but it's never, right? It's never, it does never, they never learn to connect with themselves to come, make that happen with that intrinsic motivation, right? So, this leads to what I call the discipline vortex. The child acts out, the parent disciplines through disconnections. The child feels more upset because they feel my safe harbor. I cannot connect with this person, right, who I'm attached with. So they feel more upset and they even act out more, right, leading to stronger discipline and down we spiral into deeper conflicts. Yeah, sounds familiar? Give me a heart. All right. So, this is the discipline vortex, right? In action, acting out, freak out, discipline, acting out, freak out, discipline, right? It's never ending, vortex. And you go down and down and down into feeding murky data, dark death of the discipline, that vortex, right? It's like never ending power struggles with your child. And I want to, I feel like we learn so much better with examples. So I'm going to be giving you so many examples. All right. So, specific example that you may relate to with timeout spiral instead, for instance, is, when a child refuses to clean up their toys, right? Probably a daily battle for some of you. A parents put them in timeout. The child becomes more upset about the disconnection than the original issue, comes out of timeout, even more defiant, refuses again, and the parent extends the timeouts or adds additional punishments. Neither learns anything, right? And the relationship suffers, right? Is this happening? Maybe not with timeouts, with something else, but do you see this, right? Is this a pattern in your house? And then there's privilege removal cycle. And guys, I'm guilty of this too. So, it's hard when you're parenting strong-willed kids, but this is just for awareness purposes. When this is, you may be throwing a consequence or a punishment, unrealistic consequence or punishments or, timeouts, but it's good knowing this is not going to work, right? So the anger, the trigger pointers are going to be a lot less inside you, even if you throw, do take the privilege removal, and of a favorite toy or whatever. But you would know, okay, this is not going to work, right? Because in the beginning, I used to do that. Like it used to help me, even though I threw unrealistic consequences, it helped me. My psyche helped me. It helped me with my psyche that this is not going to work. By fluke, if it works, of course, if I'm powering over to this child, they may submit. But as I said, both my kiddos are strong-willed too, but it's not easy, right? They're not gonna like give in. So that's why the old parenting paradigms doesn't work with the strong-willed kiddos because they are not going to back down, right? They are not going to back down. So yeah, with the privilege removal cycle, what happens, right? I'm going to take your favorite toy away for next hour or for the whole day, right? Your favorite teddy bear is lost for an hour, and then you'll learn your lesson. And so more disconnection. So then what happens to the child? More freak out and more acting out, right? Ella says, are there any kids who are not strong-willed? Right? I know. I was one of them, but that was back in the day. I was the obedient one. But yeah, these days, that's why I say, it doesn't work in the modern days. It doesn't. And in a way, I feel like it's a good thing in a way. Yes, it's not easy for the parent when you're going through it, when you're living this. But, just think about, right, how far we have come, where technology is going, like how much more pressure our kiddos will have, 10, 20 years down the road than we did. I mean, we are already stressed out. Think about it, right? So they need to be like on top of the game, right? So if from the get-go, if they don't have these skills, leadership qualities, it's going to be hard to survive in this world, right? So they have this. So in a way, God, universe, source, whatever you believe in it, right? They have given the skills to these new modern kiddos. That's what I believe. And it's a necessity. So it's our parents' job to understand, how am I going to parent this kid, because I don't want to squash his leadership qualities, right? We want to maintain that while disciplining. So we want to discipline without doing the damage, basically, right? So thank you for that comment. And then there is the yelling escalation. So I'll tell you, many parents admit that my kid, like I'll tell you, actually the other day, was it the coaching call? I can't remember what it was, but the mom shared, my kid doesn't do anything, but the second I yell at her or him, things starts happening, right? I'm sure you hear this, with your mom friends too, and you feel this way too, perhaps. And what's happening here is this creates a pattern where both parent and child learn the yelling is required for action. I know, like Ella, you and I think, talked about the last time we talked, is, it's that, it's just gets programmed, right, into your brain and their brain, that until the yelling doesn't happen, the action won't take place. Right? So, it's damaging communication and teaching children to respond only to escalation, right? Daria says, without doing the damage, that was the line I was holding on, my light of knowing it's going somewhere better. Yes, totally, totally. All right. And then there's conditional love. I think this happened a lot. Like, if you had a parent, who was I don't know, who was like just not attached, who was just disconnected emotionally. Um, this may happen a lot in those households. Like traditional discipline methods often unintentionally, maybe not intentionally sometimes, send a message that love and connection are conditional on good behavior. I think I think almost all of us went through this. Right. Not that our parents didn't love us, but it was very conditional. Children learn to perform rather than develop intrinsic motivation, right? Like how many of us are people pleasers, right? Like we're coming out of it. I'm recovering from it myself. And I know, you guys also who is watching this now live, you've been people pleasers, to in some point of your life. And yes, now, you'll learn to put your boundaries and all, but it took some work. Alternative approach, replacing power struggles with curiosity about your child's needs and behavior. So instead of disconnection-based discipline, be the leader, right? You be the leader of your, future leader. Be in the lead, be big, and then find your way through with a really wonderful balance of that firmness and kindness. This approach maintains your authority while preserving connection, which is especially important for strong-willed children who tend to push back harder against traditional power over dynamics. Traditional methods prioritize compliance, but modern brain science shows that connection, not control, builds cooperation. The brain's prefrontal cortex, where reasoning and empathy live, only develops in safe, connected environments. For generations, parenting focused on obedience, but strong-willed children are wired to push back when they feel controlled. It's not defiance, it's biology. When we prioritize connection, instead we help, we help their nervous system feel safe, which opens up the part of the brain that's responsible for logic, empathy, and cooperation. You are going to get that cooperation automatically. But we have to break those patterns of yelling and timeouts because we are so swamped up doing those because we feel that's the only thing that works. That's the only thing that's going to get my child to, brush their teeth or get out of the door, right? The patterns that's been created needs to be broken because there is a better way. Yes, it will take some work from your end, but I tell you, true discipline starts with relationship, not reactivity. So remember that, right? Write that down. I'll say it again. True discipline starts with relationship, not reactivity. Okay. All right, moving right along. Okay, brain science, my favorite. Okay. To understand why traditional methods fail, we need to understand what's happening in our children's brains. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for impulse control, reasoning, decision making, is not fully developed until the mid-20s. This is a true fact. And it's mind-boggling. Guys, put the ages of your kiddos down in the chat if you're able to. My daughter, is 10. So if I calculate, she still has 15 more years before this part of the brain, prefrontal cortex, that's responsible for impulse control, reasoning, and decision making. It's not going to be fully developed till her mid-20s. 15 more years to go, right? So when we have this information, we would be like, oh my gosh, okay, maybe I'm expecting so much from my child, right? They don't have that brain development to do what I'm asking them to. So I have to bring in other tools. I have to bring in compassion. I have to bring in playfulness, their primary language, right? In the midst of all this, because it's not going to work. It's just think about it. They just don't have a capacity, right? The brain is not wired to have that impulse control, right? So 6 and 7, yeah. So you do the math, right? How many more years? So like 20 something years, right? 20 something years before their brains are fully developed. So it's just mind-boggling, right? When you think like that. And when we use disconnecting discipline methods like timeouts or punishment, we actually trigger the child's stress response. When we do that, it actually freaks out our kiddos because we pull connection away. They go into that alarm, right? They go into that fight, flight, or freeze response. And strong-willed kiddos, most likely, right? In particular, they're wired to fight back when threatened. They have incredible stamina. I don't need to tell you that. They have incredible determination. They simply won't give in when they feel pushed. And again, this is not defiance, it's their developmental response to perceived threats. Okay. And then connection calms the nervous system. And co-regulation precedes self-regulation. We forget this. We just expect them to regulate themselves. but their nervous system is also not built to self-regulate. They need, they borrow our nervous system to regulate themselves. And that's why we feel so exhausted after a tantrum, because they're borrowing our nervous system. They don't have it fully developed, right, in their bodies to regulate themselves. It doesn't get developed till 12, age 12. They can't self-regulate. And that too, if they haven't had this conscious parenting, peaceful parenting in their household, they, even after 12, they're going to struggle. How many of us were struggling, right, before we did inner work? And if you're still, having trouble regulating yourself, right? Like you must be in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, right? And some of us are still struggling to self-regulate. Okay, so it's very important to look at the modern parenting challenges that we face today, right? Like parenting today looks vastly different than it did for previous generations, right? We face unique challenges. We are more isolated with less community support. Our children are growing up in a digital world with different pressure. Um, Rates of childhood anxiety and depression are alarmingly high, right? When I look at what's happening with children, and while there is more conversation happening around nervous system regulation, emotional intelligence, value-led leadership in parenting, it's not so simple as a 92-second soundbite on Instagram or TikTok. It's not, right? Many of us recognize that the parenting methods we inherited are not working, but we are unsure what to do instead. This is where a new approach becomes essential. And maybe you are here to learn this new approach. And I'm so thrilled you're here. Alrighty. Okay, so connection-based alternatives. So this is, get your pen and paper, if you can, and get ready to take some notes. Okay. So the alternative to traditional parenting, I want to first put it out there, is it's not permissiveness. Okay. I had I recently put a post, and I had, excuse me, biggest lash out on this. And I think so many people, I think a lot of them were dads. Nothing against dads, but there were some moms too. But they were perceiving this method as permissiveness. And so I want to be very clear, it's not permissive. It's what, right? It's what we call connection-based or conscious parenting. And this approach balances firm boundaries with kindness and empathy, right? So there are boundaries there, guys. It's not letting kids run around, do whatever they want, and let them walk all over you. No, it's not. Positive parenting is a methodology of a style of parenting and a way of life that helps us as families take a break from methodologies based in fear and force, and really embrace this firm and kind model. This approach recognizes that discipline actually means to teach, not to punish. It focuses on guiding children rather than controlling them, and it prioritizes the relationship as a foundation for all learning. Okay, so here is where you'll need your notes. Okay, so these are the 3 keys to effective discipline. Guys, these stuff I teach inside my membership and my coaching programs, and you're getting this for free. So please, this is so valuable. Take notes, and all I ask is give this a go, not just once, not just twice, give it a go. Give it a go for a week, let's see, and then see what happens. Okay, so yeah, I want you to be so, I'm grateful you're here and you signed up for this information, because this is priceless to me. This could shift families here. All right. So there are 3 essential keys to effective disciplining strong-willed children. The first one is connection. This is the foundation for all influence that you want, right? When children feel connected to us, they're naturally more receptive to our guidance. Here, I'm going to give you an example. One of my clients, let's call her Nikki. Nikki was struggling with her strong-willed son who would get benched at soccer games and typically storm off in rage, creating that embarrassing scenes. Instead, after she worked with me, instead of confronting him with criticism, which was her usual approach, she tried Act One parenting, coming alongside her child rather than coming at him. When she approached him with connection first, after he was benched, something remarkable happened. Instead of having his typical meltdown, he opened up to her about feeling uncomfortable and insecure with the other kids on the team. Right? Like this would not have come out if she had come at him, right? With force, with criticism. This connection first approach completely transformed their interaction and it built trust. You know, the other day, my son came home and threw a huge tantrum and said he wants Starbucks right now. He wants, you know, they love this cheese Danish something they have there, and they just love it. And she was like, I want Starbucks right now, and right now he was not ready to listen. I held my boundary, right? Because Starbucks is something, you know, in my family, doesn't have to be true for you, but in my family, we make it, it's a special treat, right? So if it's a special occasion, you know, we it's like special thing, you know, we get when it's something special happens. And so that's when we get Starbucks. So we want to keep that special. We're not going to just have it on a normal day, casually, every day, and out and about, right? So I held my, you know, boundary that I know. So I had to use very little words. With my daughter, I can use more words. With my son, I've learned not to use a lot of words because that overwhelms his nervous system even more. That may be true for your kiddos too. And, you know, I held my ground and I said, no, no Starbucks. You know, I didn't even did the full sentence. I just said no Starbucks. And I just sat next to him. I held him and you know, that must have gone for a couple of minutes. And then he just started crying because I was still holding him because he was open to me holding him. You know, if your child is not physically, you know, open to you know, holding him, that's okay. You know, just stay nearby and like they just needs to know like my mom is here no matter what my behavior is. She's still here for me, right? And after a couple of minutes, he broke down. Poor kid, he broke down and he started talking about, you know, what went wrong at school that day, where, you know, his friends were not playing with him, and, you know, this kid didn't do that, and that kid didn't do that. Like there was so much within him that came out. If I was forceful about Starbucks, right, he would have never shared what happened at school, right? I still held my ground and, you know, all his emotions came out. So it wasn't about, he was trying to get that dopamine to make him feel better. Like he thought this cheese Danish would make me feel better, right? So I'm going to demand that instead of sharing my feelings, right? They don't know, right? This is what I need to actually do. So just imagine he's 6 right now. So many instances like this where he will actually be heard with what's going on in his life. He's not going to go to food to comfort himself, right? It's going to take many, many instances because before he learns this. He's going to go to, you know, go to his safe person, you know, hopefully it will still be me in his 20s and 30s, but his friends, his wife right down the road, who knows, right? Like I want him to be able to express or maybe go to his journal and write in his journal, right? Like, you know, let's process our emotions, you know, things happens in life. It's never all lovey-dovey and all happy. But hey, when things goes wrong, instead of getting cheese Danish, we can actually process it because that cheese Danish is going to make him feel better temporarily, but whatever was inside of him, it will still stay stuck inside of him. It's never going to come out, right? So it is so important that we have this, you know, we teach our kids, these are our teaching opportunities to teach them how to process their emotions. Here, sorry, Aria, I missed it. Okay, Daria says, I testify to it. I stop confrontation and learn to pause and hold space for calming down. It's 3 years later, and my son tells me the truth, and I do not repeat myself like a broken record. Yes, and he takes initiative. It paid off. Love you forever. Oh my goodness. Very profound to actually see what is under the surface, hold the boundary, but be loving. Yay! Oh gosh, that just gives me goosebumps. Daria, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I'm gonna cry. Okay, let's get moving. Okay. So, yes, so second one is regulation. We must manage our own emotions before we can help our children manage theirs. When a child is fired up emotionally, the parent's regulation is crucial. Let me share with you a scenario where a child is upset about not getting what they want, right? Let's see this cheese Danish. If the parent responds by separating the child, like putting them in a naughty step, they're breaking the brain connection needed for co-regulation. Instead, when a parent stays regulated themselves and maintains connection during the child's emotional storm, they create a pathway in the child's brain for self-regulation. The regulated parents literally becomes the bridge, right? The brain bridge that helps the child return to calm, right? So yes, it took few minutes for my son to get regulated enough to let out his more feelings, right? But I just stayed. My calm brought more calmness within him to actually share what he needed to share to feel better. And literally, he was gold. After he shared it some tears. I held him, I comforted him, right? That's all he needed. He didn't even need my advice, honestly. He just needed to be heard what happened to him. He can, I'm so confident that my son can figure out his friendships because I've seen him do that in the past, even though he's just 6. So he just needed me to listen, and then he can figure out for himself. It's super powerful. One of my client has a strong-willed 5-year-old son who has intense tantrums in public places. Previously, this is one of the dads, very few dads I have worked with in my coaching career, but this one dad, and I'm going to call him Miguel. Miguel would become embarrassed. He would feel angry, and it will be just escalating the situation. After working on his own regulation, Miguel implemented a new approach during the grocery store shopping meltdowns. When his son threw himself on the floor screaming about a toy, Miguel took deep breaths. He acknowledged his own embarrassment without acting on it. Guys, this is one of the key. Yes, a lot of us take deep breaths, but they come and tell me, Jahanvi, that doesn't work for me. But guys, it just doesn't stop there, right? Like you have to figure out what's going on for you. For this parent, for this dad, acknowledging he was just feeling judged. Even if people around him wouldn't be judging him, he was feeling, like, oh, people are judging me. Look at my son. He's not behaving, right? Quote unquote. And he was feeling so embarrassed. And I think since he was learning this conscious parenting, he was doing, conscious parenting inside of his home. But every time this grocery store trips, he would lash out. All the conscious parenting went out the window in those crazy moments because he was feeling judged by other parents or other people in the grocery store. So, when we did the coaching, this came out, and I was able to tell, okay, this is major thing that's triggering you more than your child. The people around you are triggering you, right? So we worked on, what can we, how do we acknowledge it with, the embarrassment that he's facing instead of acting on it. And then he learned like how to calmly, sit down next to his son And he would quietly sit down next to his son and say, "Hey, I see you. You're really disappointed that you can't get that toy. I'm here when you're ready," right? Like that's all he had to do, right? His regulated presence helped his son calm down much faster than previous confrontational approaches had. Powerful, right? When we regulate ourselves first, we can respond rather than react. Third one, moving right along, the guidance. I think this is what we normally jump into teaching, right? We normally just jump into this. We skip the first and second. We skip connection, we skip regulation, right? If we're parenting always, we go directly to teaching because we feel that's our job. As a parent, we teach. Yes, we teach, we guide them, right? But, guidance is, teaching rather than punishing. We have to remember that. When a child, let's say, hits someone, right? The traditional approach of timeouts or punishments doesn't teach the child what they need to learn. Instead, use the guidance approach. First, establishing safety. Of course, you want to separate children if needed in that kind of scenarios, and then create connection by getting curious about what happened, right? Setting clear limits, right? It's okay to be upset and it's not okay to hit, right? You want to be kind and firm. It's okay to be upset, so you're acknowledging their feelings, and you don't want to use but because it negates the acknowledgement you just gave your child. So you never want to use the word but. You want to say it's okay to be upset and it's not okay to hit. And finally, finding a way forward through problem solving, right? You want to explore solutions together, which is gonna land for you and your child. This approach teaches children the skills they need rather than just punishing the behavior, right? Priya, one of my clients, has a strong-willed 8-year-old who was refusing to complete chores and responding with defiance when reminded. Instead of implementing punishments, Priya tried a guidance approach. She sat down with her son when they were both calm and asked him what made chores difficult. She genuinely asked, like, what's making these chores difficult for you? I really want to know. And then she discovered she discovered that he felt overwhelmed by the expectations. She discovered that he's a visual learner and not an auditory learner. He needs to see things visually. Just verbally telling him what to do and what he hasn't done and what he still has to do and yada yada yada, too much. Was too much for this child. He couldn't handle it. So he chose to be just defiant. Like, oh, this is too much, overwhelming. I'm just gonna say no. No, thank you. Right? So when we discovered this on the coaching call, there was so many question and answer going on. And then, we discovered, okay, so he's a visual learner, right? Together, right? This is something we had a whole plan on the coaching call, and then the mom and son, Priya and her son, they created a visual chart breaking down each chore into smaller steps. And Priya taught him specifically how to do each task rather than just expecting him to know. A lot of times we just expect, right? We just use our verbages and we expect the child to know. Like, maybe they've seen you do it. Maybe that you have showed them once and you're expecting him to just know it. Again, remember, their brains are not fully developed. You may have to show them 20 more times. That's okay, right? But, don't assume that your child just knows, right? So she showed, or certain things he knew. He just said, "Mom, I got this," and that was it. But then when she offered to show or help, he was more receptive. Yeah, can you please show me, mom? Right? That's all it took. Right. And one more thing she did was she also built in choice by letting him select which chores to do first. Because this child underlying need was control. He wanted to be in charge and control of things. So we talked about this on the coaching calls that, hey, whatever, you can, wherever you can give him choices where he gets to decide what he wants, you need to allow him to do that. And she was not at first okay with it because she's such a perfectionist and she's like, this needs to be done first, this needs to be done. But she kind of let that thing go because it's not worth the battle. And if it could allow him a little more choice, a little more control over what he can do and how he can do, that's going to shift so much. And when she saw that, she was reluctant, but she said, "Okay, I'm going to give this a try." And she did. And how receptive he got, she was like, "Okay, yeah, I can do this. Fine, fine. You can put out the trash after you do the homework or whatever, right?" It was. So she also, and then within 3 weeks or so, his resistance decreased significantly as he gained competence and autonomy through his teaching, through this teaching approach. So super powerful. And guys, these examples really demonstrates how connection creates receptivity, regulation creates capacity, and guidance creates learning, which we really want, right? Ultimately, that's what we're wanting, and that's why. But there is connection and regulation. Those steps comes before the teaching part. Remember that. Right? The three essential keys to effectively disciplining strong, real children. All right. Beautiful. Okay. Okay, this is one of my favorite thing. Okay, understanding your child's behavior. A fundamental shift in this approach is understanding that all behavior is communication. I'm going to repeat. All behavior is communication. All right, I'm going to stop and read the comment. Dari says, today Leon did not want to do maths because it was boring. Yeah, I agree with him to a certain extent. Sorry. I replied it can happen and asked him what is boring. So we came up, he invented a plan, wrote down all his activities with breaks for jumping between maths activities, and he became so happy. I wrote a plan, Mom. I love that. Oh my goodness. See, problem solved, right? He needed to be a little bit in control, and you know what, Daria, like, kids, especially strong-willed kiddos, they need they can't sit for half an hour to do their homework. I know it drives me bananas because I know my son is can sit and finish his homework, right? Like he just he can just in one go, focuses, finishes, done. With my daughter, now it's a little better, but I know I remember it was driving me crazy at the time because she would just be running around and doing stuff and getting distracted right and left and all that. But yes, when some kids just can't, you can't expect that from, children, at least, under 10, you can, even the older ones, even teenagers, right? Sometimes they need a lot of breaks in order to focus, right? So if we could learn their learning style or how do they learn best, right? Some people need that kinesthetic, right? They need some kind of those stress balls or something, right, to continue to focus. And yes, it personally, I have my own reasons for it, which I'm not going to go now, but it drives me bananas, right? That's on me, right? It's triggering for me for my own traumas and all. But hey, I need to come over that myself and not demand my child to do the other way. So thank you for sharing. That's beautiful. Yeah. Okay, where were we? So yes. Okay. So when your strong-willed child misbehaves, They're not trying to manipulate. That was one of the comments I got on my post about, when people were bashing about this style, that, hey, kids just, they're just manipulative, so they need to be in control and da da da, da, right? I'm telling you, they're not trying to manipulate you. They're not, or make your life difficult. They are simply expressing an unmet need or a skill gap. Remember that. They're expressing either an unmet need or a skill, there's a skill gap. We believe that when we see those behaviors that we don't like, we believe we have to control children's behavior. A guidance approach looks at those behaviors and says, oh, that was inevitable. This is an occasion for teaching, right? You take this as a teaching opportunity. When we address the underlying need rather than just the behavior, we create those lasting change rather than temporary compliance. It's as simple as that. We are making it too complicated. It doesn't need to be, right? There could be an unmet need, for my son, he just needed to, he just needed some empathy. He needed to be heard. His need was to be heard. When I heard him, with an undivided attention, when I did the active listening, that was it. That's all he needed. He didn't really need the Starbucks cheese Danish, although it would have been nice, but he didn't need that to process his emotions. I can, the next day I can go and get him that. That's fine. But I don't want to give him cheese Danish just to make him feel better in that regard, because he will never learn how to process his emotions otherwise. Make sense? Alrighty, let's move right along. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. We're going to quickly go through boundaries. So, because I know a lot of you feel like, okay, this may be permissive, but I want to ensure that strong-willed children absolutely need boundaries, right? It's a must. In fact, they thrive with clear, consistent limits. The difference is in how we set and enforce those boundaries, right? Limits help kids feel safe, loved, and know what's expected. Your job is to set and enforce the limit, and your kid's job is to test them. And I know you're going to hate me for that. But I want to tell you that's not defiance, it's developmental. It's development. When children push back against our limits, they're not being defiant. They're doing their developmental job of finding the edges. Our job is to hold those limits with empathy and firmness. This means we say yes with conditions rather than automatic no. We can acknowledge feelings while still maintaining boundaries. Like I said, no Starbucks, and I'm here, you're feeling sad, right? Or angry. In the moment, my son was pretty angry, right? And we could say, I know you're disappointed and it's time to leave the playground, right? Whatever it is, you can show firmness and empathy at the same time in setting those boundaries. I mean, I have lots of trainings actually on boundaries inside my programs and membership, all right? So, but I just wanted to put this out there shortly, all right? Because I have a lot to cover here. Okay. All right, the practical tools for everyday challenges. Okay, let's talk about practical tools you can start using from today. Guys, get your pen and paper out if you haven't already, because this is what you need, right? This is one of the hows. Emotional coaching. Help your child name and process their feelings before addressing behavior. Collaborative problem solving. This is so crucial because a lot of times we just throw solutions at them without even, acknowledging how they would be feeling about it. Do they agree with it? Do they not? Excuse me. So include your child in finding solutions to recurring issues. Number 3, offering limited choices. Give appropriate options within your boundary to provide autonomy, like that mom did with the chores. Preventative planning. Anticipate challenging situations and prepare your child in advance. Like, for example, I'll tell you whenever we're going to a new place, if I'm aware, I will let my child know that, hey, it's such and such person's place. You're not allowed to go upstairs, or you're not allowed to jump on the bed or the couch, or do not touch this, or right. I'm letting them know what the expectation is at this space, right? And now I just tell my kids in the, car ride, and that's enough. I know when I started this, I used to tell them when we decide we're going to this place, it may be months ago, but I would let them know. I would tell them a couple of weeks prior to, and then I would tell them a week prior to, then I would tell them the night before, and then I would tell them our car ride. Trust me, they need reputation. It will land for them. But now, my kiddos are 10 and 6, and I just need to let them know in the car ride. Of course, if I had, information, I would just share it, but I would definitely make sure because right before we step into this new place, I want them this fresh in their brain that these are the rules at this place and this is the expectation. Trust me, it's going to go much, much more smoother when there is an anticipation. Okay. Special time. I talk about this so much. I talk about the dear time, drop everything and connect. It's my DEAR, dear time. Drop everything and reconnect. Okay, so having that regular one-on-one times with your kiddos builds your relationship bank account. Okay, so, ideally, I would love for you to spend at least 5 to 10 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, whatever time you can give on a daily basis. If you can't do daily base, at least do it weekly base, but make it consistent. Especially the little kiddos, they need consistency and they need to know exactly, right? They need to know predictability. Like, so every Saturday at 4 o'clock, it's mommy daughter time, right? So they know what to expect, when to expect. And this is such a life changing, guys. Guys, the stuff I'm giving you here, give it to my paid members, all right? So I hope you're enjoying it and I hope you are learning so much. And the last one, and I have a full training on this, repair after rupture. But in short, I want to tell you, when things go wrong, and they will. It's we're not being a perfect parent. That's not even the goal, right? Things will go wrong. Model taking responsibility and making amends and make it genuine, guys. I've seen so many moms tell me that, Jahanvi, I apologize to my child. And when I ask them, okay, can you share with me how exactly did you do it? And a lot of times, I hear like, oh, if you wouldn't have yelled, I haven't yelled myself. I'm sorry I yelled, right? So that's not genuine, right? You're putting it on them. You want to make it genuine. You want to make it like, you mean it, and having a game plan with it. Having a game plan like, how are you going to not repeat this? I'll tell you, try to make it this a short story looking at the time. A couple of weeks back, I had terrible spring allergies. I get spring allergies every year, and it's just horrible. And it was the beginning of the season, and I had this pounding headache, super bad. I mean, I was physically really suffering. So the minute my kiddos came home from the bus stop, I told them, "Hey guys, out of any days, today's the day I need your cooperation the most." I kind of just put it out there, and they were like, "Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah," and all that. And then, they were helping me do stuff in the kitchen. And they started bickering. And my head was pounding. It was so bad. I just couldn't take physically, I couldn't take the bickering. And I ended up yelling, I'm being very honest. And I was like, oh, but I know enough now how to amend this, right? So obviously things took place. They were, son wasn't happy, daughter wasn't happy, and I was not happy, right? So I said, okay, you know what? We all need a breather. We all need a break. I said, come, let's hug. if you're open to hug. So they kind of a little bit reluctantly came and hugged me. I said, okay, we need to go do what we need to do. So one needed to go shower and one needed to change into pajamas, something like that. And I said, I'm gonna go finish the dishes, what they were attempting to do. And I said, I'm gonna, even though I'm not capable, I didn't say that to them, but I'm like, I'm gonna finish what's left and you guys do. While we're doing our chores or whatever we need to do, I want us to think of these things. What was happening for me? What went wrong? And what can be done differently. So I want you to ponder upon these three things. And then when we're gonna come together and then we're going to share. Each one of us is going to share. All right. So probably after 20-ish minutes, we all came, it was almost bedtime. We all laid down, we were all snuggled up. By that time, everybody calmed down and we snuggled up. And I told them, I started, I'm sorry, I should not have yelled. And this is what was happening for me. This is what went wrong with me. And this is what I will do differently next time. Right. And we each took turns and said that. And when they shared what was happening for them, the other person, the other sibling was like, oh, this is what you were thinking. And they had such a clarity of what the bickering was on, right? Like they were like not even addressing the issue in the moment and they were just bickering. And it turns out they were kind of on the same page but bickering still, right? So it was such a learning moment for all three of us, and we connected and we had a better plan for next time if mommy ever had a headache, right? Okay, let's move. So these tools, guys, build your child's emotional intelligence while maintaining your leadership role. Okay, so important. Okay. Mine has never been perfect, but I committed to 10 minutes a day to implement small things to keep it going, and I don't get discouraged. I don't see immediate improvement, baby steps, but dedication every single day. What are you referring to, Daria? I'm so sorry. Maybe I'm just looking at this message. Regular one. Oh, you're talking about the one-on-one time. Okay. Okay. Yes. Minutes influence small things. Yeah. Hey, anything counts. Okay. Trying things. Yes, yes. All right. So long-term vision, guys. So the ultimate goal of this approach isn't just to make today easier, though it will with practice. I promise you it will. It's to raise future adults with the skills they need to thrive. When we parent with connection rather than control, we develop children who have an internal moral compass rather than compliance out of fear, right? Healthy relationship skills based on mutual respect, self-regulation abilities that really serves them throughout their life. Critical thinking rather than blind obedience, intrinsic motivation instead of independence of external reward, and then emotional intelligence that supports all other success. The goal is to teach children to be considerate of others' feelings, to think about the effect of their behavior has on others, for them to discipline from within themselves. Right? So this is not just for today. You are growing generations here. Whatever you're teaching your children, you're passing down, right? Whatever generational patterns you're breaking, you're passing that down too. That you're not passing that down, right? You're teaching these skills and they're learning and it's going to be passed down. And that's how it's going to be a better world. Little by little, one parent at a time, one child at a time. Excuse me. Yeah. Okay, so your parenting journey, guys, is as we conclude, I want to acknowledge that shifting your parenting approach is a journey. Just look at this picture. Just look at it. It's truly a journey. I want you to know it's not an overnight transformation, right? I'll be the first one to tell you. This is not like easy fix it. If that's what you're here for, you are not in the right place. But if you understand, if everything I've said today resonates with you or sparks your interest, I want you to know it's not an overnight transformation. You are likely rewiring generational patterns that run so deep. So please be gentle with yourself. When you fall back, and you will, into old patterns, that's part of the process. It's not about perfection, like I said, it's about progress. Those small, consistent changes in how you respond to your strong-willed child will create significant shifts over time. And remember, you don't have to do this alone in this journey, right? You don't have to, although you can, but the journey is so much harder by yourself, right? They say you need a village. We don't have villages these days. And that's why it's been my attempt, at least in the 2025. Sorry, thank you so much, Jahanvi. As always, inspired by after masterclass with you. Thank you for doing this work season. Thank you, Daria. Love you. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, Daria is definitely one who's been through this journey and has seen ups and downs, and still she's showing up here, and it's very inspiring for me too to see my clients keep showing up for these things, even though they know this work, but they're so dedicated. All right, so I have my intention has been to create a path for you forward, and that is my invitation to you to the Conscious Parenting Lab, where you can discipline without damaging. I started this membership in March, and it's my mission to really reach out to as many parents as possible who wants to learn this. And I have made this a hacky yes for anyone who wants to learn. All right. So I want to speak directly to you, heart to heart, as a fellow parent who knows how deeply you are you care about raising your kids well. I created this conscious parenting lab because I've been exactly where you are. You're trying your best. I know that, right? That's why you're here, right? You love your child more than anything. But traditional parenting methods, the yelling, the punishments, the constant power struggles, they're just not working anymore. Maybe they never really did. You don't want to scare your child into listening, into submission, right? You wanting connection, not fear. Right? You want to raise a human who is emotionally intelligent, confident, kind, and connected to you. You want a discipline that doesn't damage, boundaries that won't break your child's spirit, and communication that actually works, even when emotions run high. But let's be honest, it's hard to do this alone. It's not that easy, and your kids are little only for a little while. This time is going to fly by so quick, right? You don't want to wait around. And that's exactly why I built the Conscious Parenting Lab. What is Conscious Parenting Lab? It's a supportive membership space for parents who are ready to shift from fear-based control to connection-based leadership, a place where you get monthly trainings, tools, coaching, community support, right? All grounded in brain science, emotional intelligence, and real world parenting. It's truly for parents who want to do things differently, but don't always know how. That's where I was, and that's why I created this. This lab is where I teach you the how. Why I created this is because I didn't have this myself, as I said, when I needed it the most. I remembered the day I walked out of my daughter's room after a massive meltdown, hers and mine. I had yelled, she cried, I shut down, and I remember thinking, this can be the only way. There has to be a better way. That was the moment that changed everything for me. I started learning about conscious parenting, child brain development, regulation, attachment science, nervous system science. I started integrating these tools into my own parenting, and I saw everything shift, even my marriage, right? But not overnight, but with time, patience, and a lot of support. And now I have taken everything I've learned, plus what I have taught to hundreds of parents, and created a library of resources that's clear, digestible, easy to implement, and incredibly impactful. So what you will get inside the Conscious Parenting Lab, you will receive the brand new trainings on key parenting challenges like sibling rivalry, tantrums, power struggles, tech boundaries, emotional outbursts, bedtime battles. We cover it all. I say here scripts and tools. I'll tell you, I do give scripts, but I don't want you to fully rely on it because the script I'll give you, right, that may be working with my kiddo, but it may not work with your kiddo. So I want you to have a basic guideline because I get it when you're new to this work. It's hard to put into those exact, magical words, right? That's firm and kind at the same time. It's tricky for a lot of us. And that's why I'm going to give you some level of guideline, but I want you to make it your own because that's going to land with your kiddos, not my language. Okay. So I'll give you the support, but I want you to create something that resonates with you and your child. Okay. You'll get access to my past trainings from co-regulation to discipline without damage and boundaries and whatnot. And a super powerful, supportive, private community of like-minded parents on the same path. Maybe you are not here to make friends, and that's okay, right? That's okay. But, at some point on this journey, we need that support to lean in. And I want you to have that community available to you if you need it. And if you are here to make friends, awesome. You're going to find some amazing friends here because we're all going through similar stuff, guys, and we're all learning the same things. And it will be so much nicer to do it with someone, right? So, you can find a partner, to do this with, and partner it up with someone. And yeah, and the community is there to support you. And there will be something new I have added on. So I have added on a Q&A, monthly Q&A. Uh, okay, I don't think I have put it on this slide, but I have added monthly Q&A. That's why it's still not on this slide because I just decided to do this. So yeah, so you will get coaching once a month, and that's just priceless, I think. And of course, there will be more surprises because when you join, your needs help shape what I create next. So every month I ask my members, what are you needing? What is it that what challenges you're facing in your parenting right now? And based on that, I will direct you. If I already have a resource, a training, or anything that you're needing, I will direct you to that. And if I don't, I create stuff. So this month, a parent needed something on independent sleep for her son, and I created a little PDF for, I gave her the details and then I created a PDF for her so she can print it out, stick it up, and kind of, go through that process more easily, right? So, you ask, I give. Okay. And guys, this is unreal. All of this, literally, all of this is available for you for just $7 a month. Okay, there we go. Yeah, $7 a month. Yes, I'm not kidding. You're getting all of this for just $7 a month, which is crazy and unbelievable. And before you have any thoughts, I want to be clear. I want to be clear on affordable does not mean it's low in value. It's affordable because it's my mission. It's my mission that this information reaches to as many parents as possible, especially parents like you who are showing up, who are asking questions, who are doing the hard work of unlearning and relearning, right? This is not fluff. This is not generic advice, guys. This is science-backed, emotionally grounded, compassion-centered parenting wisdom that really transforms families. Join the parents who are unlearning and relearning and transforming their families today. All right. So, why, and I also want to address why it's different. It's different because and why it works it's because it's based on developmental psychology. It focuses on connection and not control. It addresses the needs beneath behavior, teaches co-regulation and emotional intelligence. It helps you parents from both sides of the parenting mountain. I know I didn't address the parenting mountain, but basically the parenting mountain is the balancing of the firmness and the kindness, right? You're going to tip over if you don't have that balance, which I think a lot of you are going through that right now, right? And let me give you some examples of the shifts parents experience inside the lab. One mom messaged me, my child said to me, I feel safe with you now. I cried. I've been waiting to hear that for years. And another parent told me, I didn't yell this week, Jahanvi, and it wasn't because I bit my tongue. It was because I actually knew what to say instead. A dad shared, I used to think parenting was about control. Now I understand it's about connection, and our home feels peaceful for the first time in years. Hmm. These are the results we are getting. The Conscious Parenting Lab helps you shift from reacting to responding, from power struggles to peaceful leadership, from guilt to confidence and clarity. And that's what I want for you too. And why you should join now? Because there is never going to be a perfect time. Never. Parenting doesn't slow down and give you a break while you catch up on self growth or anything else. But this membership is designed for real life. You can watch trainings at your own pace, use tools when you need them, come in and out of the community as you have capacity, right? There is no pressure, there is no judgment, just support. And because this is a cancel anytime, zero risk offer, guys, you have nothing. You got nothing to lose and so much to gain. The truth is, parenting is too hard to be done alone and too important to do by default. If you're feeling inner nudge, right, that quiet voice saying there has got to be a better way, that's not random. That's your intuition, and I'm here to honor you that. My final words to you is if you ever said to yourself, I don't want to keep yelling, I want to understand my child better, I need tools that actually work, not just theories. I want to raise connected, confident kid without losing myself in the process. Then Conscious Parenting Lab was made just for you. Please let this be your next step. Your $7 a month gives you access to a life-changing parenting framework, tools to implement it, and the support to keep going when it gets hard. This isn't about perfection. It's about presence. It's about growth. It's about healing for you and your child. So come join us. We're doing parenting so differently, and it's making all the difference. If you're watching this later and you have any questions, feel free to email me about this. All right. And I'm going to put out the winners after this training. And also, I want to let you know the bonus, the fast action taker bonus I'm giving out. Okay. I'm giving out to people who joined today, who signed up for this, whether you came live or will be watching this later. I'm giving you guys 3 months off for the Conscious Parenting Lab. That's my gift to you for showing up and signing up for this masterclass. So please take advantage of it. This link is only available. Well, I'm going to put it in the chat and I will be putting it out in the email when I send out this replay. So you will have access to access to this link that I share here. Okay, so please don't share with anyone else. This is only for you for showing up. All right. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for showing up here, being here with me. I truly appreciate you and your time and your trust within me. This may be something new you learned, or maybe you are somewhat aware of it. Wherever you may be on this journey, I want to assure you the Conscious Parenting Lab is your next step. Please join us. Lots of love to you. Take care. Bye.